is your daughter?
5 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I see.
Cute little thing.
Yes.
It's adorable.
I love her.
Very young. She's a very cool baby.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to this month's edition of Senior Dog Health and Nutrition Seminars with Dr. Adam from Healthy Pets Veterinary Hospital, where he is the owner and chief clinician. He's an expert in Eastern and Western medicine, and he's our go-to guy for nutrition. We like to call him San Francisco's foodie vet. Tonight we're going to discuss actual diets. What is your dog eating and why? What things can we add to their diets? What would be good for them? We're going to brainstorm and talk about the reality of adding real food, fresh food, to your dog's current diet, whether it's homemade or processed kibble or raw food packs. And Adam?
Thank you, Russell. Thanks for hosting me, Mudville and Small Cloud. Yes, today we will kind of touch upon many previous conversations we had on the subject, which is how to feed your dog so he or she stays as healthy as possible for as long as possible. So basically how to capitalize on a healing properties of foods. As you probably know from your own experiences, some foods might be good for you and some foods you don't do well on, and it's true about dogs as well. So there's this big question that is brought up when I tell people, hey, feed your dogs homemade diets or start adding some fresh foods to the diet, and the question is, how do I know that my dog's diet is balanced and complete, which is something that is advertised on pet food products and this kind of their food on the market. It's providing a product that is complete and balanced and something that one can feed to their dog forever, or as long as they fall into the bracket of what the food was designed for, whether it's a 2 to 6 months of age, or puppy formula, or adult formula, or geriatric reduced calorie formula. So how is it possible for dog food to be able to cram it all in this brown looking meal? Because it's really amazing how you can cram it all. It doesn't matter if the dog is a 2-year-old Chihuahua or 5-year-old German Shepherd. It seems they need the same things. They just need the same things to stay healthy, which doesn't seem to be clinically true, from most vets and people's experiences. So usually what I do is I kind of turn around and ask people, well, how is your diet complete, and how do you know? What are the marks of hey, I'm eating well and my body's working well? So I use 3 guidelines to determine whether the diet is working well for my patient. So one is a good energy level and strong stamina. So a dog that is able to play, exercise, go on long walks without any ill consequences from it. So no soreness afterwards, no panting during the walk, no slowing down in walks, no stalling. Just happy, energetic dog that's willing to jump and go out on walks with you as much as you are able, because dogs can definitely outdo us as far as wanting to go on walks. The second one is good appetite and healthy digestion, which so a dog needs to want to eat that food. So dogs that start to turn their noses on their food, perhaps they don't really like it that much. And healthy digestion refers to the quality, well, I guess, all kinds of processes and the sounds that come out of and things that come out of the digestive tube, which is so anything from burping to gas through acid reflux, vomiting of whole food, loose stools, colitis, mucus, diarrhea. these things should not be happening to someone who is eating food that is right for them. Instead, we should see appetite that is healthy but not ravenous. It shouldn't look like a dog is starving and just is wolfing down the food as though it's their last meal. There should be no excessive digestive tract noises, so no burping, no hiccups, no retching, no gagging, no bubbly sounds from the intestines. And then finally, the end product of digestion should be a very fairly dry, compact, and formed fecal material. And if that is not the case, something went wrong in a small intestine. Either it wasn't working very well because of some irritant going through it, or food was too rich, or there's some other inherent problem with the digestive tract. And the third hallmark of healthy of a diet being well chosen for your dog or cat is a quality of the surface. So skin, coat, feet, and nails. So think of if you really take care of yourself, you have nice clean skin that's free of breakouts and pimples. Nice strong shiny hair. Dogs should have a nice moist feet as well. Maybe not moist, but at least nice and dark, similar to what you see on a nose of a dog. And instead of having feet that are dry, calloused, hyperkeratotic, which means a very thick rim of cells that do not shed properly on the rim of the foot pad. All kinds of fissures, cracks. All of these are consequences of very poor blood supply to the extremities, and poor quality of the foot pads and nails as well. So nails, turn from nice and clear, where you can actually see the cuticle or nail bed, to we call it French manicure nails, which are nails that look as though they've been coated with a opaque enamel or a coating, whatever, nail polish, I guess. So if these three things are there, who cares if the diet is complete or balanced on paper? It's working for a patient, so it should be pretty complete. Again, there's really no formula on how to feed the dogs. The feeding of the dogs in this country or anywhere else is a very voluntary event. And you can feed your dogs. There's no laws telling you, what to feed your dogs. The AVMA, American Veterinary and Medical Association, does have some guidelines or some statements they make about different types of foods, and they have gone after raw foods or made cautionary statements about those, or homemade diets. There's AAFCO, which is the American Association of Animal Feed Producers. It's a voluntary organization that certifies pet food sold in most pet food sold in this country as complete and balanced. As in, they have minimum requirements to keep dogs alive. As in, the food trials they put the trials that they put those foods through, have to keep a small population of dogs alive for 6 months.
So real dogs are part of those food trials? Like they actually have
Yeah, and they're fairly young dogs. Usually, most dogs that are involved in research are beagles.
Okay,
so some other breeds too, but it's usually a very controlled group of animals that is subjected to those dietary studies. And these groups have to be fairly healthy and visibly free of disease, and kind of looking like they're not about to die after 6 months of being fed something.
Easy to keep them healthy.
Right, and of course, it's one thing, and they're adult dogs, maybe they enter a trial at 1 year of age. Well, what about those dogs when they're 7 they still should be eating the adult formula. Are they going to be doing as well as those younglings? It seems that no matter how bad you feed your dog, you have a bit of a grace period. So you can eat junk food for a while, and dogs apparently can eat garbage for even longer while before it shows in their body. So and again, the things that go first are those luxury items of skin, hair, and nails. So how do we know what to feed our dogs? I guess it's back to that. and if you really want to be sure that you're feeding them what they need to have, and need someone to stamp the bag of dog food saying that hey, like this food is okay for your dog. Well, great, use it, but be mindful of those 3 items I mentioned as well, because they are very important, and there's plenty of dogs eating very good quality pet foods, and none of these things check in. They don't have energy, they have poor stamina, they have horrible digestive problems, and be they caused by dog, pet food or some intrinsic factor, and their coats are horrible. This is and for as many dogs I see for digestive problems, I see as many dogs with skin problems, skin and ear problems. So, and I think the two kind of go hand in hand. So you really cannot have a healthy skin without healthy digestion. So I wanted to kind of shift focus from hey, this is my complete and balanced nutrition to I wanted to kind of put more effort into breaking this artificial distinction between a human food and dog food, which is completely arbitrary and made up. There's food is food, and dogs can eat it and people can eat it, and there's definitely things that dogs do better on. For example, raw bones or organ meats, and and I guess people wouldn't be eating bones, like that. And there's things that people do well on. For example, vegetarian diets for some people. So let's just do away with this distinction between human food and dog food. And yes, there are some foods that have proven to not work very well for some dogs. So for example, it seems that if you feed your dogs onions in large amounts for long enough, it'll affect their hemoglobin and they end up with anemia. Or if you feed your dogs chocolate, or like dark chocolate or other foods that have stimulants like coffee flavored things, they get really beet red and hyper. So no stimulants. Dogs are hyper as it is, so there's no need to stimulate them. Raisins and grapes, there's many dogs that had a bad reaction to those, and it's still kind of a toss-up of what is causing the bad reaction from those foods. It seems that plenty of dogs eat raisins and grapes and are just fine, and there's dogs in Napa and Sonoma and France and wine countries that aren't dropping dead the second they touch grapes. A kind of food for thought here literally is a hey, if you don't have a very strong digestion, or you've been eating something that's not really good for you, and your body is weakened, you will have a bad reaction to most things, to new foods especially, because your gut has not really learned how to process a real food. If you've been eating nothing but porridge or something that will eventually very quickly become porridge in the stomach, and I'm talking about dry dog food or canned food, you cannot just throw a chicken bone at those dogs and expect that they're going to be great on it. So there is a process in strengthening the gut, before you work your way up to whole foods or raw foods, or even kind of richer components of homemade diets. So you cannot just go from dog food to raw food. And some dogs can, and I've witnessed some dogs do great, eating their first turkey neck, after eating dog food for 3 or 4 years and they are just fine, but it's not usually the case.
Could I
Yes, please.
have a question about sugar? Should dogs never have sugar? I mean, people say it's really bad for dogs.
Well, but look at how much flour dogs are eating. You know, when you look at the kibble, it's half flour. It's a little cookie. That's
Yeah, I
right.
don't feed my dog.
Right. Awesome. You know, so well, but you feed your dog carbohydrates, which are which are starchy foods. You know, so when you think of like yams, sweet potatoes, rice, brown rice, wheat, oatmeal, you know, these very quickly become simple sugars, you know, and it is important to mention because it is one thing to eat plain white table sugar. It's another to eat white rice and another to eat brown rice, and that has to do with the it has to do with the glycemic index of the food. You know, how much work does the body have to do to get glucose out of this food? You know, so eat sugar, your blood sugar level spikes because your bloodstream gets flooded with sugar. If you eat white rice, well, it takes few enzymatic processes to split into as simple sugars, and then it's you know, your blood sugar level will not spike as fast, but it's gonna be, you know, not far behind. You eat brown rice, and you know, it takes a lot of time to dissolve the husk, and you know, and then enzymes have to work, you know, so that food which has higher glycemic index, you know, will cause less of the sugar spike, blood sugar spike, and won't be as dramatic.
Right.
And then, you know, as you take it, and of course, you know, carrots have sugars too.
Right.
And if you eat carrots, it's gonna be even less of a spike. Is it good for dogs to eat sugar? No, I mean.
No, it's not good for anybody. Well, the reason I'm asking is because I like tapioca pudding, and sometimes I give him a little taste of it, and I'm wondering if I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but you can feed your dog a flavored yogurt, and that's fine too. You know, and yes.
Yeah, that's better.
Some dogs, you know, don't like to eat plain sugar, so you have to do a squirt of honey or maple syrup in it, and that's pretty sugary.
I heard honey's bad for dogs. Is that true?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But again, you know,
It's bad for some dogs.
Yeah.
Is it?
Probably.
But that's true of even people.
Yeah.
You know, it's
just what
dogs and.
I never heard honey was bad for people.
No, what I'm saying is just like in people's world, like some foods, some people like exactly. Some people tolerate certain foods, and others are like some people can't eat spicy foods, and some people love spicy foods. Dogs can be of the same range.
And you know, guys, you know, sometimes, you know, things are spoken of, and then someone else repeats it, and then it gets repeated many times.
Yeah.
You know, so like right now, I don't think a day goes by when I tell people like, you know, hey, like give your dog avocado because it has a dry coat, and they're like, oh wait a second, I've read, and they're about to quote, and like I've read that, you know, avocado is bad for dogs.
Really?
It happens multiple times during the day. It's like, it's a lot of times, you know, and I'm like, oh my god, like I need to make I need to make a sign up front. Avocado is good for dogs. You know, yeah, like, you know, let's start a good rumor, like positive rumor. Like, why is it always like negative things? You know, don't give dogs this. You know, human food bad. Avocados kill dogs.
All started by Purina.
Well, I'm sure. No,
Or even just a comment about like, should they be eating food from the table? From the table, as if like, you know, what do you mean food from the table? Like, if you have fruits on the table, that's food from the table. Is that so bad? But I think it's the analogy of the people food versus dog food.
Right. You know, so this is like, you know, this is kind of distinctions in language. You know, how we use language to imply meaning.
Right,
so if you tell, hey, like my dog's eating table foods, you know, the neighbor's gonna be like, oh, you know, this dog's gets on the table and eats the food, and I don't want to have that. You know.
They must beg and they must do all those bad habits.
Well, the thing, I think that it's got a bad rap because then sometimes people feed their dog while they're eating, and the dogs develop a habit of sitting there.
Yeah,
And what, you know, but I don't think it has to do with the
It's a
actual
behavioral
food.
issue.
No, it's not
It's not the
No.
food that you're giving.
It's not the food.
It's how you're giving it. Yeah.
Exactly
It's not
right.
the food. It's not the dog. It's the people.
It's usually the people.
Usually.
You know, let's take some responsibility for what's happening in our lives. You know, food is not out to get you. You know, dogs aren't like out to trick you and make you do stuff for them. It's, you know, be responsible for what's happening around you. You know, and the way you choose to feed your dog will impact his or her health. I can guarantee you that.
Right.
So So let's start some good rumors, as in, avocados are great for dogs.
Yes.
Or there is no distinction between human foods and dog food. They're really the same. Let's create a wave. Let's see if internet catches up.
Okay.
But people like to be, people like to be whistleblowers. Like maybe someone thinks, oh, like I'll tell someone I've read that avocado is bad. I'll tell it to 10 other people, and I'll save 10 dogs. Well, not really. It's just something that got repeated that really, creates a lot of social phobia.
Like the grape story. I mean, I think that's like the one that everybody all believes that grapes are poisonous to dogs.
Yeah, and so like, and if the dog eats chicken bone, it's gonna be blood from everywhere from a dog, right? Like in less than an hour. So yes, these things. And again, these are stories that were kind of contorted. Definitely, dogs should not be eating a pile of chicken bones because this will cause digestive upset, as opposed to feeding a dog a chicken neck. So, and again, the grapes. I really didn't know about the grapes till a few years ago, and my dogs really love grapes.
Mine
so,
too. I was like,
so I
it's
guess
an American thing.
So I guess
American
there's nothing poisonous in grapes. However, just like with a lot of other foods, some individuals, some dogs will have a bad reaction to it, or their gut is just not prepped for it, or is weakened by other things where you just cannot throw real or whole foods at them. And it's the same about drugs too. When you think about like you read stuff about Comfortis, so which is the flea product, and it just kills dogs everywhere, right?
Really?
It's a.
Is that what they say?
This is like the only green chemical that is used for flea control in the country. It's naturally derived from the bacterial extract. It is the only thing you can spray on your vegetables or fruits and still call them organic. And and yes, it does. It happens to cause a good number of vomiting in dogs that start taking it. Usually like single time. So yes, you give it to someone who's got weak digestion or whose body is not in a really good shape. Yes, you will have a bad reaction to a drug. Every time you're using drugs on someone who's sick, there's a good chance that for all the good effects you'll see some side effects as well. But that's just the nature of it. If you're well, you don't take medications, because if you did, they would have no side effects. If you're sick and you take them, there's something wrong with you or you're weak, so there's a good chance of side effects. So and it's usually accounted for. So if you take aspirin, you should consider the possibility of getting a heartburn from it. It is on the label. It is in every piece of literature you read about aspirin or Rimadyl or Previcax or Deramax or Medicam. These are things that are clearly disclosed, and which is why these drugs are by prescription only, and they should be used under supervision of a licensed veterinarian or medical practitioner. So, well, anyways, back to the food. So what can we do about just making the pet food better? Well, simple recipe is just to add more fresh foods to the processed food. So things that will be very unlikely to trigger any bad reactions if added to the diet, would be most fruits and vegetables. And dogs aren't really, plant-eating creatures, but hey, food is food. And most of them, if you haven't fed them anything else but dog food, they will take anything else that is offered to them. So, fruit, apples, pears, avocados, bananas, melons of all sorts, mangoes, pineapples. As far as veggies go, all the cruciferous veggies like broccoli, cauliflower, leafy greens, Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage, sweet peppers, zucchini, which is a summer squash, as opposed to the winter squash, which is actually also good, but needs to be cooked way longer. Carrots, peas, green beans, other types of beans, other leafy greens that people cook up and eat. It's all fair game. You want to do one new thing at a time, small amounts first. You never know how one is going to react to the food unless one tries it. So, and you know, some foods don't really agree with certain dogs. Not to mention that, of course, you know, like many dogs will not have anything to do with it unless it is well flavored. So, you know, again, dogs wouldn't necessarily gravitate towards vegetables or fruit if there's something else available.
Is there any nutritional difference in preparation of the, like, versus like puree versus steaming versus chopped raw? I mean, I imagine. I read somewhere in the Pick Cairns book that, especially for an older dog, pureeing is good because it doesn't require as much effort on the dog's part to break down the.
That is true, and it does preserve most of the chemical nutrients, you know, and their original state, because you know heating does denature things, you know, and it tends to oxidize fats and change the structure of vitamins. You know, it actually tends to denature B vitamins, B vitamins for the most part, and as you heat things, all your antioxidant vitamins become oxidized, and they lose their free radical scavenging properties. So yes, you know, because dogs are not cows and they will not take 3 days to digest that piece of carrot. You have to do something to make it not come out the same way as it was swallowed. So you either mechanically break it down with the food processor or Cuisinart, or you steam it, and then it will make those veggies softer, but you know there is a decrease in nutritional value. To what extent, you know, it's kind of hard to tell. It depends how long you cook the vegetables, you know, and if you dice them very finely and steam them for 1 minute, it's different than if you don't cut them at all and boil them for 20 minutes. There's a difference.
But it's just good to get the vegetables in them, right? Like
right.
The baseline is just.
Okay, so let's just group fruits and veggies in one group and talk about why they are good for us. Because, you know, for some reason they're good for us but not good for dogs. So why is that the case? You know, what is it about vegetables that's good for us?
A lot of things, vitamins and minerals.
Right. So vitamins, B vitamins, which are, you know, things that we require to make cellular energy from the calories that we consume. You know, so think about eating, you know, brown rice and eating overeating highly processed starchy foods like bread or pizza. You know, it's so if you eat a lot of carbs and not enough B vitamins, it doesn't make you feel energetic. It makes you feel depressed. You know, it's like flooding your body with energy and it cannot move. Versus you know, and you can consume the same amount of calories from Jamba Juice, you know, like from this pureed fruit drink, which has so much sugar, but it has so much B vitamins, you know, and you actually get a jolt from it because it's like,
Oops.
you know,
I didn't know that.
you get
Fruits
there's
have a lot
sugar,
of sugar.
there's plenty of it, and the thing is sweet.
And you're not getting the fiber to.
Yeah.
So you know, so when you take in calories, when you take in simple sugars, even with huge amounts of B vitamins, well, you know, that energy is actually those calories are quickly converted to usable energy, and you feel energized from it. You don't feel sluggish from it. So what else? You know, what else are and you know, there's so many wonderful things in different types of fruits and veggies. You know, and I think as a culture, we like to capitalize. Like if we find something good on the goji berries or acai,
Yeah,
like, you know, hey, like, you know, our food, like, you know, let's squeeze it out of, you know, this fruit and package it and put in the pill, and then it's like 1 pill a day and you're saved from cancer. Well, it's not that simple. You know, there's really, you know, I know why it's such a weird dichotomy of people trying to like simplify food and people trying to like make food more fun and more diverse. You know, and it seems like it seems so counterproductive. But you know, so besides the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and calories, you know, there's sugars there, and you know, both simple and complex carbohydrates. And then most complex carbohydrates are is fiber. Some of it is digestible, some of it is not. And that stuff, if we cannot actually break it down, well, it is a food for the microbes that live in our gut. And these guys, when they are fed properly, they are very happy and they do stuff for us. So we have those, we have those commensal bacteria living in our gut that do us no harm, and they chip in, for a cost of living. When you're good to yourself, they actually, and you feed them well, they create, huge amounts of, as they break down that fiber, they release, huge amounts of simple molecules that are easier to digest for us, and also they multiply, and we end up eating them. Kind of what the cows do. The cows have bacteria in their rumen, and cows eat grass, which is, which mammals cannot really process cellulose to any extent. So, but they have this huge chamber where bacteria cuts stuff down for them and produces huge amounts of volatile fatty acids and simpler carbohydrates and that stuff, and also like water bacteria, and all of that gets eaten. So we kind of trick the bugs to work for us, not against us. Kind of like when we ferment milk or make cheese. It's why would you want to spoil milk on purpose? Well, because you can actually increase the nutritional value by letting someone take that sugar from milk and make it into good quality protein and essential oils. And it's free, right? Well, you have to wait a couple of days, but otherwise it's free. So.
And I ask, what about garbanzo beans? Like, can dogs eat hummus?
Yes, yes, they can eat hummus. There's other stuff in hummus. There's a tahini, which is a sesame paste. There's usually some olive oil, and usually there's garlic and spices.
Well,
so.
That's the thing. I heard garlic was I heard garlic was bad for dogs.
I read that it was really good.
Right. So so is it? How about it's good for some dogs, it's bad for some other dogs? Let's make it
okay.
Yeah. So yes, garlic is a very hot oil. When
Yeah.
you think of garlic, it can make your stomach burn,
Yeah.
give you heartburn, right? Because it's very warm oil, just like onion oil or other like very hot sugars like radishes, so or horseradish. It's a very hot essential oil in those plants, and if you eat them, and they're not buffered with, and of course, if you're taking like a teaspoon of garlic in a quart of hummus, well, it's a nice flavoring. If it's a piece of meat with equal amount of chopped garlic, it's a lot of garlic.
Right.
And you better have a strong stomach for it, otherwise it'll give you heartburn, and it can end up actually as vomiting or lower digestive tract dysfunction, as in diarrhea. So I wouldn't give garlic to just anyone. Again, it's hey, if you have an older doggy that's always very cold, that's always like that's very, very warm seeking, and you just want to make them feel warmer. Well, you can use garlic, you can use cinnamon, you can use ginger, you can use dry ginger, not fresh ginger, which is used for different things, but you can use dry ginger to add. You can use turmeric, so you can use warming spices to make your cold pet feel warmer. Just like when just as if you were to eat spicy foods and feel warmer from them. So yes, beans are great for dogs. Let's talk about beans. What's in beans? Because they usually kind of stand apart from the vegetables because it's a
Protein, fiber.
Yeah, so it's very as opposed to brown rice or whole wheat. Beans are also seeds, but they are very rich in protein and oils actually too. So they have decent amount of essential oils and tons of fiber, of course. Bean, of course, is much bigger than the grain of brown rice. You can visibly appreciate. So there's just more stuff in it, but but still, it is supposed to create a young plant at some point, right? It's like it's the a plant has jammed. It is like an egg of a plant that will eventually hatch into a plant, right? So just like eggs are, why are eggs good for us? I mean,
they have everything it needs to create
a little animal.
A chicken.
Right, so
it's like having a chicken.
So beans and whole grains are kind of like eggs of the plant world.
So could you feed beans as an alternative to grains for a carbohydrate source for dogs who can eat grains?
Yes, and that because of the composition of the beans, as in higher fiber, higher protein, you would actually decrease the glycemic index of the meal as a whole. So that would be great for dogs where like they are really ravenous and they don't satiate easily. You want them to feel full.
And grain-free dogs who have to avoid grains, it's good to substitute the grains with beans.
Oh, I see. I suppose, I guess, dogs that don't do well on grains, they don't have to have grains.
What if they are like Ocean? She can't maintain her weight, and you have to put stuff. And we
Like
don't
something to
starches,
fill,
yeah.
right? So there's not something to carry the richness of the meat, and
Right.
to add some easy calories for her.
Yeah.
And right now we're using a lot of butternut squash, and she
She
loves all
was-
vegetables.
yeah.
But if we could
But
come up
you
with
can
more
fill it with a
things-
lot of vegetables, but she's losing weight. So we're just trying to think of what are good alternatives.
Yeah, that's
Red lentils are really
So beans are good.
yeah.
Red lentils are great for
Well,
dogs.
Substitute.
Right. When you think of like boiling down the beans, like you'll get it as creamy as if you were to boil carbohydrates. You'll get nice thick, pasty, hey, like refried bean, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like mashed potato.
They have a certain meatiness to them. I feel like
Yes.
if you mix in some ground meat,
Right.
it'll trick them a little better.
Well, it's the protein thing. And yes, and very few people, but some people will use beans as a protein source for their dogs if they choose to have their dogs eat vegan diets. Vegan diets are actually pretty tricky, and very few people can pull it well and still have healthy dog. But it's doable, but it's it's a lot of work. So beans, so again, beans have all the benefits of whole grains plus the protein. And there's a little bit more fiber in them too, which is why, if you don't cook your beans well, if you don't chew them well, you end up with bacteria fermenting that fiber, and you end up gassy. So make sure you chew your beans well. And it's true about the dogs because they have even shorter guts. So beans should be cooked well for dogs if you
Like-
choose to do it.
Mushy well, or
Yeah, kind of like how you would steam a baby carrot to the point where it's soft so it doesn't show up at the other end. Again, anything that's not prepared properly and made accessible to the intestines will come out. And a husk of the bean is just as strong as husk of the brown rice or other whole grain. So it is designed to withstand a lot of stuff. It's designed to pass through many digestive tracts without being destroyed and still create a little plant from it. So
What about salt? I mean, this dog likes saltier foods. Is that an okay thing to?
well, okay. So let's talk about sugar and salt. The common thing between them is that they taste good.
Right.
So they are great to flavor things. However, like sugar will make you hyperglycemic and will make you crash. After you come down from a sugar high, salt is great, but it's from one morning to another. You will not have any more salt in your body than the previous day. So the salt that you've eaten has to leave, and it's going to take some water with it. So if you eat lots of salty foods, you will create lots of urine because you have to flush it out, and this can lead to dehydration. And there's other things like, and in between you have to kind of the salt will actually pull the fluid out of the tissue, and it will cause hypertension, at least transient one. It'll cause a bit of a spike in blood sugar levels. So people that have blood pressure problems should not be eating very high amounts of salt.
or heart problems.
Right, or heart problems, which has to do with the blood pressure and how much force the heart has to push against. So.
What's challenging, at least for my case in particular, is I was told low sodium, but there has to be some sodium, and so it's like how do you know that you're hitting a good balance with that?
Well, because I mean, we do lose sodium. There are insensible losses of sodium, like through sweat and other body secretions. And if you become hyponatremic, like if you go for a run and it's really, hot and you sweat a lot, you have to take that salt packet. Otherwise you're gonna be really headachy because you alter the electrolyte balance of your blood and tissue fluid, and it doesn't feel right. So yeah, how much is enough and how much is too much? I'm sure there's guidelines on like bags of HD, of how much salt you shouldn't go over, or like I guess the same is gonna be true about kidney diets, which also profess that one should not be feeding renal patients sodium or salt. But yes, some salt is okay. So my guideline would be you should make things isotonic, which is a
Oh, good.
right? So it shouldn't taste salty, but it shouldn't taste unsalty either.
I see.
So that's if you put it on your eye, it shouldn't sting. Or it's like you put it on your mucous membrane, it doesn't cause any electrolyte flux, so it doesn't feel like it's burning you.
So we put the food on our eyes to see.
That's good.
It's like the baby's
Yeah.
spilling the baby's milk on your wrist to make
Right.
sure it's the right.
But so think of fresh water and salt water. How does it feel on your eyes? So salt water feels better because it's closer in concentration to your tissue fluid, and tap water is very, there's very little sodium in it, so it stings more. Yeah, there's a happy medium, and yes, I don't know if everyone is in the habit of trying their homemade diet that they make for their pets, but they should. And if it tastes salty, it is probably too salty, especially if you're trying to limit the salt intake.
Well, because none of these diets ask for extra salt, right? Because some foods naturally have sodium.
Sure.
So.
Their meat has sodium in it.
Yeah.
And meat is truly isotonic. It has the amount of salt, sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, phosphorus that you would find in your own tissues. So yeah, that is really isotonic. But then plants like grains have very little salt in them, and some of the most vegetables and fruit. So and salt is important. This is kind of the only way to get, like, our intestines don't really absorb water. They have no ability to absorb water, which is kind of strange because we need water to survive. But the way we get water inside water is inside of a gut, so it's inside. But the way we get it into our bloodstream is, we expend energy to import glucose and sodium, and we concentrate those things on a body side of it, and the water follows passively. So if you dehydrate it, if you drink plain water, it kind of sits in your stomach, versus if you drink some coconut water or some Gatorade. So that the glucose rushes in, the salt rushes in, the water follows. So.
Oh, is that how electrolytes and?
That is how balanced electrolyte solutions work. They are isotonic, so they don't sting your mucous membranes, even if you have an ulcer. And as you take in electrolytes and glucose, water will follow passively. If you drink distilled water, if you're dehydrated, it does not work one bit. So fruits and veggies are good for dogs. Let's say. Let's make this statement.
It depends on the dog.
Exactly. And beans have lots of nutritional benefits as well. Well, how about fresh meats? It seems that most of the meat we feed to our dogs, it looks like chunks of meat falling from the sky on the ad, but when you open the bag of dog food, it doesn't look like meat. It doesn't even smell like meat either. So maybe like the fish formulas will smell fishy. That's about it. Like I don't really smell no chicken and chicken foods, or beef and beef foods, or lamb and lamb foods. So like, how do I know that this brown thing has meat in it? Well, you don't, and this is kind of like, this was like the big, this is a big argument against pet foods, and most of them do use, even if they say they use meat, it is not really the meat that you think that you want to eat. These are meat scraps and things that aren't really allowed for human consumption for most part, So so kind of like a refuse meat. Anyways, that stuff is boiled for many hours, to fraction it, as in to separate the protein from fats. And yes, during the cooking process, proteins are also susceptible to heat, and they will denature. They will fold in different ways, and they will become different antigenically, which means they don't look the same to immune system as they did in their raw state, which is why plenty of my patients will be allergic to chicken coming in. They go on homemade diets with chicken or raw foods that are chicken based, and they're fine, so the allergies go away, so
Is
so
actually chicken.
Yeah, chicken. It really is chicken.
so it is a different type of protein when it's heated. When it's heated for a few hours and then mixed with other things and baked for another God knows how long. So is there a benefit of eating fresh protein that wasn't boiled and cooked for a while? Like, is there something good about fresh meat if you're carnivorous animal?
Is there?
I think so. Yeah. And nutrition is all about opinions, really. It is like the world of opinions, and you invite another vet here, and that's holistic. They're gonna tell you different things, and you invite a vet that's not holistic, they'll be like, oh my God, dog food only,
Hill's diet.
so
Food doesn't matter. Food doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't
yeah, it
even
doesn't matter,
So it's better to serve
Just
raw
this
ground beef than
Sorry.
cooked ground beef to the dog?
to some dogs, but remember, like, as one gets older, we do lose ability to, like, we get weaker, and so does our digestion. So no, you cannot eat raw foods when you're really old and you have lots of health problems, because you don't have the energy to cook it for yourself in your gut.
Uh-huh.
Or when you have things like, there's dogs that do great on raw foods, but not on like raw foods. Like I have patients with inflammatory bowel disease who cannot have dog foods. They cannot have kibble. They cannot have canned food. People cannot really do a homemade diet, so they go on raw foods. But the raw foods don't really work for them because they're just too weak to digest it. Hey, but if you just steam the raw food, it works like a charm. So all you've done is put like 2 minutes of steaming into it, and it makes a huge difference. So, and yes, you have denatured protein a little bit, but not extensively. It's still fairly close to its original protein. So and yes, so there is enzymes and other micronutrients in raw foods that are really beneficial for dogs, being carnivorous animals. And like the quality of the amino acids, from fresh meats versus highly processed meats, I think it's somewhat different. Yeah, but this is kind of, this is really where it's hard to prove things. How do you know that the dog is better eating raw meat versus if the meat is cooked? Again, you can look at the like what the gut does with it and how pretty things look at the end of the process.
Can I ask a question about raw foods? Because of the variation of raw foods, when they say that Stella and Chewy's is raw, why is that considered raw?
Oh, well, why is Anna's Kitchen raw?
Yeah, there's that too. Like Honest Kitchen, why is that considered raw?
Because it was not heated in a classical way. It was dehydrated.
Okay.
And
Because he wasn't used in the process of making.
well, I don't think they freeze dry things. They probably they dehydrate that's fairly not high temperature, but probably in excess of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That is what you do with the dehydrators, like when you dehydrate fruit, So, and yeah, just if things evaporate very quickly before things are to spoil, and you suck out the water. So, if you pull water out of something, water is necessary for life. So, this is how you I guess, chemically preserve things, because you take the water out of the equation, and things cannot live without water. Even bacteria, eventually, like, you'll get fungus, and bacteria. There's bugs that eat anything, but you'll preserve it by dehydrating, and and I don't know to what extent the proteins or fats are changed in that process. Probably similarly to what happens when you slightly cook things.
Okay.
That's jerky is what dried meat. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, people used to live on that before they had refrigeration.
Exactly. Or sausage, so that's kind of the same idea,
Yeah.
like you dehydrate the meat and you make it so it's very high in fat and protein, and there's other things that concentrate that make it very comfortable for bacteria to grow.
Sausage is it's hard for bacteria to grow in sausage.
I'm sorry, I guess it is sterilized because it's smoked, so it is like putting things through a autoclave, so like when you smoke meats, it's anyways,
Okay.
tangent. So okay, so you could take the beef jerky or chicken jerky and pulverize it, and take some freeze-dried peas and carrots, pulverize them. The carbs probably have to be somewhat prepared to be already well ground up into flour to be digestible for dogs. Well, all of this is mixed together, and you have this. I think it used to be called pemmican.
Pemmican.
Pemmican is a dried
Right.
powdered meat, right? That you just take a handful of and eat. So that is the idea behind Anna's Kitchen.
It's like jerky, but pemmican has other things in it besides meat. Jerky, I think, is just meat.
Oh yes, as with any ground things, you can add stuff to it because you don't know what was added because it's ground up into
Right.
powder. So
Right.
it's the same with dog food. Who knows what's in it because you cannot see it anymore. So
Right.
the same with burger meat. It's not as expensive as steak because
You get all sorts of things.
or because lots of things end up in a burger. So
Yeah.
and they have to look as pretty as steak before they end up being a burger. So that's the same thing about dehydrated raw. And again, there's nothing wrong with Anna's Kitchen as far as, hey, when compared to a kibble or canned food, I still think is better if properly rehydrated. But I don't think it's as good as fresh food. And also, think of the shelf life of things and how they usually affect the nutritional value. What does it mean if something can be kept on a shelf for a month or 2 or 6 or a year? Does it mean something? So this is where one can make this distinction between live food and dead food.
Mm-hmm.
We can boil everything down into carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and eat those things. And again, we will, and we will survive. But things will not work very well after a while because it isn't just. Even if you take in all the protein and fat and carbohydrates and vitamins and minerals you need, it seems that we keep discovering that we just don't know it all, and there's something else that we need to be getting to stay healthy. And these are trace things that aren't really apparent, and FDA might not know much about, but they maybe make up 0.1% of things that you should eat on a yearly basis. But there are things in fresh foods that are necessary to really shine. So.
Can I ask?
Yes, please.
If you had a choice between canned peas and freeze-dried peas, would freeze-dried peas be more nutritious?
Yeah, that's what I choose from my homemade diet because of how much processing was done. I didn't take a kind of cooked vegetable and its own brine that's hermetically sealed and sterile.
Right.
I take food that's been flash frozen very quickly after harvesting. So. So
frozen foods or freeze-dried foods are better than canned.
Well, frozen foods are different than freeze-dried foods.
Right.
Frozen foods would be, what happens when you freeze a steak? You thaw it and it's still a steak.
Right.
Right. If you have freeze-dry steak, you're gonna have a jerky, and you cannot rehydrate it. No, you can maybe somehow, but no,
For-
it would
for
be tough without
I never
spoiling
heard
the
of
meat.
freeze-dried steak.
Right.
That's why they don't do it.
Tastes like that.
So this is this is, I guess example of irreversible processing versus reversible processing. Freezing something and you can thaw it and you can like mine is the freeze damage, because water expands and breaks things. You kind of end up with like mushed
Right,
soft peas that were like destroyed mechanically from the inside out.
right.
When you dehydrate the peas, well, again, the energy was expended to make them evaporate water, and the water is taken away.
Right.
So and it's a way longer process too than freezing them.
Huh.
And again, maybe this is like splitting hair. Maybe there are minute differences in nutritional value, but I think this is probably splitting hair. It's still canned peas and frozen peas and dehydrated peas are still way better than the peas that are listed as an ingredient in the dog food. And not to those like, I guess some companies will actually smarten up and they start to put dry peas in the kibble, and then you put a kibble and there's some green there. There's some green. There's few specks of green here and there, and they're using fresh vegetables.
Right, right.
Most of the peas are in that brown little cookie.
Uh-huh.
It was somewhere in the batter for that cookie. It was for it. So, okay, so can we agree for now that fresh proteins is good for dogs? And I'm not saying like I don't say anything bad about dog food, but how about what if you added fresh meat to your dog's diet? Will it like mess up the nutritional balance of the rest of the diet, or is it just a healthy supplement? And I feel it is a really nice healthy supplement, and it's pretty hard to go wrong with adding some amount of fresh protein, whether it is raw or slightly cooked, to the pet's diet. And we do it. I mean, we do it already. We feed our dogs plenty of jerky. There's many millions of pounds of dried duck and chicken breast and beef and lamb that is consumed by dogs without any ill effect on them. So I guess there's nothing wrong with eating extra protein on top of what you get out of dog food, be it canned or dried. Okay, so are oils good for dogs? Are fats good for dogs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I guess when you think of meat, meat is not fat. There are very fatty cuts of meat like bacon, or there are types of meat in the body. There are organs in the body that store fat, like liver or bone marrow. So we have a muscle meat and we have organ meat. Because one is very rich in protein and not so rich in fat, and then we have organ meats that tend to be much higher in fat than protein. And this is kind of like this is a big one. Oils are really huge because we are made of oils. We are gigantic oil and water things walking around. There were some other things thrown in, but like the essence of who we are, like from the cell structure, we are a fatty bubble with water on the inside and water on the outside. So, and the reason we are alive is that we can regulate what's inside and what's outside the cell. That is what life is, basically. Otherwise, that is the essence of life on Earth is a phospholipid bilayer, which is a bubble made of grease, made of fat, right? And again, this is what we are made of. And those fats, since we are made of fat, our cells are made of fat. Well, and those cells make other things. The cells made of fat make bones and they make collagen. They make like other more rigid structures in the body. But who is making all of this stuff is cells that are basically made of fat. And also then we have organ systems in our body that aren't centralized, like heart. You know, we know what heart does and where it is. But the immune system, for example, is like, I guess, like secret police of our body, right? You know, it tells us what to react badly to and who to be nice to. And those cells, also made of fat, you know, will make messaging molecules. You know, they'll make little notes for other cells in the body saying like, hey, like, be angry, or, you know, don't be angry, or do something else. And, you know, to make those little messages, the inflammatory cells, immune system cells, will pull one of the fat from its membrane and make a little message and send it out. And there's a difference in the quality and the quality of the message if different type of fat is used. You know, so why do we eat fish oil when you have arthritis or when you have allergies? Because if your body is saturated with omega-3 fatty acids, inflammatory cells tend to use omega-3 fatty acids, and they make very weak inflammatory substances. For the same amount of stimulation, you get less of the inflammatory response, which is a good thing in many cases, especially when it comes to inflammatory disease. So yes, oils. You know, so where do oils come from? Oils come from seeds, like corn and wheat and beans. You know, so oils. And again, oils are constructed out of carbohydrates, I believe. So, you know, like fatty acids, you know, fats are made of carbohydrates. You know, that if you love donuts, you know, what happens? You get fat, right? Well, you haven't eaten any fat. All you eat is flour. Why do you have fat now? You know, that's because the body can make a glucose into a glycogen, and then triglycerides, and then fats. Triglycerides are fats, in fact. So it's like a carbohydrate protein complex to make a fatty molecule.
I thought donuts made you fat because they're fried in grease, and it's the grease that's the fat that makes you fat.
But how much grease is there in a donut compared to the flour that's in a donut? It's a pretty small amount.
I mean, these are very incorrect notions that people have been carrying around with them for a long time, right?
Yeah, because, you know, what about, you know, like if you bake a pie that doesn't have any, that wasn't fried? If you eat enough pies, you also will get heavy, right?
Right.
Or cake. Well, cake
That is true.
eggs and oil, you know. So.
Oh, that's true.
Anyways, you know, oils are essential to life, and if you say, you know, fat is bad and you stop eating fat, you will be very unhealthy very, very quickly, because fats are really necessary to stay healthy. You know, besides, you know, one of the things that fats do is well, this is kind of the function of what fats are used for, which is, you know, messages that cells send to each other. You know, one of the biggest things when it comes to fat deficiency or oil deficiency is a disruption in proper circulation. So dry skin, dry feet, you know, cold feet, you know, bad nails. This is what happens to you if you don't eat enough fatty acids and you have deficient circulation. And this happens to my patients that have inflammatory bowel disease, and they have malabsorptive disease where they cannot take in dietary fats, and they end up with a circulatory failure in the periphery, which means the surface looks like hell. It's dull, dry, dusty, peeling, huge chunks of skin leaving the surface. You know, the head is nice and shiny. You get to the rump and it's dusty and just nasty. And then from the torso down, it gets thinner and thinner as far as the hair, and the nails are bad. The paw pads are horribly dry. Eventually, you know, things like even like the nose dries up, and you get this big ring of hyperkeratosis or dead skin cells on the ridge of the nose. So, well, so here we are, kind of fighting the stigma of fat is bad for you, and it's a tough one, you know. But fats are really, really important, and you know, you can cut out carbohydrates from your diet. You know, like simple starches, you know, and sugars. You can cut out protein. You cannot cut out fats from your diet and stay alive. it is. In fact, some of them are called essential oils because they are indispensable to life, and you will not function properly without them if you are deprived of those things for too long.
But it's the 3s that are most important, not the 6s and the 9s.
Well, these are the omega-3s are most therapeutic, and these are they're somewhat of a rare oils, because they're not made by many creatures. The omega-3 fatty acids are made by plants. They're made in sprouts, in very, very young plants. So if cows eat fresh grass, they will bioaccumulate omega-3 fatty acids, and then the steak that you're going to be eating will have high proportion of omega-3s to other essential oils.
Right.
Plankton makes it. I'm sorry, the sea algae. Like algae eats it. Algae makes it. And plankton eats algae, and small fish eats plankton, and bigger fish eats that fish. Eventually, it bioaccumulates in fish, and our common source of it is cat liver, right? We squeeze out of cat liver and cat bones and other types of fat from the fish, but animals don't make those fats. We cannot synthesize omega-3 fatty acids. We accumulate them from our food sources. And yes, if you tip the balance from omega others to omega-3s, again, it impacts how you regulate inflammatory processes, which means you usually have less inflammation, which again is a good thing in most cases. Especially given how many aberrant and inappropriate inflammatory processes we see in medicine right now. Up to including cancer. So too much inflammation. Like you need inflammation to heal your tissues and change based on the pressures from your environment. But if you overdo it, it is a consuming and damaging process. And there are some places that don't benefit from it at all, like your joints or your heart or your brain. If you get hit in the head and head swells up, they give you a shot of steroid and an IV, sugars to pull the fluid out, because inflamed brain dies really quickly.
Right.
So.
So what are the 6s? Like I buy vitamin omega-3, 6, 9 is what it says.
Yeah.
You don't need the 6s and the 9s?
Oh, you do, but you get them, and you get omega-3s. Like when you eat the fatty things, you get all of them. You get omega-3s, 6, 9s, 12s, 15s, 18s, 21s. You get all of them.
But we're talking about adding to the dog's food. Do we want ones that are just 3s?
Yes, because the food we eat in general.
Oh, it has the other thing.
Yeah, it has very high proportions. Most of the meat you eat was not pasture raised.
Right.
Most of the meat that you eat is grain finished. Like it is like cows were fed sugar. And it does affect the type of fats that they will have in their tissues. So when you eat something that's oily, there's different proportions of the different types of oils in it. So it just happens that that when you squeeze a fish and get its oil, it's gonna be very high proportion of omega-3s to other fatty acids.
Okay.
So it's proportions. It's not like, I don't think there's anything that has a single type of essential oil in it. It's always a mixture of things.
So like flaxseed oil has 3s, a lot of 3s.
A lot of 3s, and lots of but plenty of 6s and 9s and 12s as well.
But that's okay.
That's totally okay. Yep. Again, the thing is to kind of tip the scale towards those like lower chain fatty acids, because of again how our bodies use them to make inflammatory substances. And again, inflammation is not just about whether you're gonna get swelling or not. It's also it's more paramount effect on the politics of the blood flow, which is circulation. Like where do you send blood and where do you not send blood? you're always gonna send blood to your brain and your heart and your liver and kidneys, hopefully. But if times are tough, and you're dealing with some problem, your gut will not get very much blood, and you end up with ulcers, or your skin much will not get much blood, and you end up with dry skin. You start itching. Or if your dog, you don't get much blood flow to the feet, and you start licking your feet, or you break a nail because the nail is so weak. So
He licks his feet.
yeah, and again, there's many reasons why dogs lick their feet too. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
wish medicine was
I'm
simpler, but it
starting to
isn't.
worry a lot now.
So,
Are there any different for a lot of these supplements or like omega-3s? Are there different formulations for dogs than there are for humans?
There's different formulations. Let's talk about the supplement world. Which is like so crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it's true, but none of the supplements you buy, the feds have washed their hands of it. So there's like
Right.
don't kill anyone, but like
There's no policy.
there's no backup of feds when you buy a supplement. It either works for you, and you tell your friends, so they buy it also. That there seems to be no difference, and you're like, well, I better take it anyways, or like it's not worth it, or it does something bad, and then you don't take it. So yeah, and boy, did people just take supplements and run with it.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy.
I think people spend more money on like non-Western stuff now as they do on the holistic alternative stuff. So and the supplement market is huge. What is different about pet or fish oil or omega-3 supplements for dogs? They're usually not flavored. They usually don't have any lemon flavoring, which is commonly added to like human versions of it, just for palatability concerns. Otherwise, if it's a good reputable company, they will use the same source. They don't pack it out for people and then they use the drugs for dogs. They actually use the same stuff for both. They put different label and maybe different statements about like what they promise this stuff's gonna do, but there is no difference. There is no difference in how a good quality omega-3 would affect a dog and a person. So again, if you get one that smells like fish, as in it's rancid, it will not have that much of a beneficial effect, or your dog.
Do you have a recommendation for the source? Like there's salmon oil versus an anchovy oil versus krill oil that are all considered omega-3 sources. Do you, however your
No, not really. No, I feel it's like within a, let's say, I use Nordic Naturals, so that's kind of what and they will have cod liver oil and salmon oil and other types of, some of their oils they just call omega-3s because, it's of various sources. But it's still a good quality, micro distilled oil that is guaranteed to have, they have like the best quality labels like in the country, if not the world, as far as the quality and purity of their product.
Who is this again? I'm sorry.
It is Nordic Naturals.
Nordic
Naturals, yeah. And it's a local company from Santa Clara, I believe.
And based on what you said, I know they make dog version and human version, but it doesn't matter. You can buy the human version and share it with your dog, right?
Yes, but again, most human versions will have lemon flavoring.
So the other way, buy the dog version.
And we take the dog version.
Share it, yeah.
And there's, dogs can have lemon stuff. Dogs can have, lemon
If they'll
flavoring.
take it.
Yes, so again, it's a tasting,
Yeah.
Well, why, my mom used to give me cod liver oil when I was young, and it was horrible because it was so heavy, and now it smells like lemons. Awesome, so it's it's like it's like something was done about its taste, so it's not such a horrible thing to take. It's this like thing of like if it's good for you, it must taste horrible,
Right.
So. Well, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. I guess there's nothing bad that would happen to that oil if you add a lemon zest or lemon oil to it, So, like lemon oil won't fight omega-3s and make them into omega-18s.
Yeah.
So it's cool. And if your dog likes lemon flavoring, share your fish oil. If you don't like lemony smell to your fish oil, get get a dog version of Nordic natural.
So you can add omegas at any stage or any dog's health. Like it's not something that they have to transition into, or like we're talking about.
Oh, they do, and that is because oils are heavy, and you're not really supposed to eat oils like that. Like there's no plant that's made of oil or animal that's oily like that. Well, I guess if you catch a whale, you could eat some blubber, and people do. People in Arctics eat blubber.
Yeah, but they're like genetically.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right, and they are geared up to deal with this amount of well, and they eat plenty of seaweed with it too. So there's a fiber to buffer the fat. And it's the same with our diets. So fats don't really make more than 10 or 20% of our foods. So yes, you can fry a donut. You can fry other meats and
You fry Twinkies.
You can fry anything, right? So you can eat, you can add a lot of grease to the food that you're eating, but you gotta be careful because before you start getting heartburn from the food that you're eating. If it's too oily, it's gonna give you heartburn because oil happens to well, when the oils come again, your body has to break it down and it releases bile and other digestive juices, and it actually it starts making more acid.
Oh.
Because it wants to break that fat into smaller pieces so it can be absorbed as fatty acids, down in the intestine. So usually when you eat something that's too heavy for you, that you're not used to, you'll end up with the food will leave, but then the stomach is just still making acid. There's been too much acid made, and that is what causes heartburn.
So you shouldn't add the omegas if they're on a bland diet. Like if they have to mellow because of their illness, even though omegas are good for inflammation.
Yeah.
What's the balance there?
Well, the balance is the priority is always to restore the gut function, and it is usually done by cutting back to the simplest possible diet. The oils. Fish oil is not like aspirin, where you take it and you have no more joint pain. If you take it for a month, you'll have reduced joint pain. But it is like a slow saturation of your body with it versus an immediate effect from it. So when you have a digestive crisis, you pull out all the supplements. You need to regain your way in to help the patient, which is to restore its gut function, restore the absorption of things that are foreign to the body. And that is why you pull back to the 3/4 well-cooked carbohydrate and 1/4 lean protein for 24 hours, before you start rebalancing things again, adding fiber, adding oils. Sometimes gut needs a break. When the gut is broken, don't overwhelm it because it will not have a chance to heal. You have to create an environment that's conducive to healing.
But in the case where you're really moving on to a bland diet because, like in the case of my pet, where we're just trying to make sure that she doesn't end up in digestive distress to add further stress to her body, is there ever going to be a time for the, rest of the course of her life where I'd add in other supplements, or am I basically...
How would you know, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you don't know. It's kind of a trial and error.
Okay.
If she's doing well with the bland diet, then you start adding fiber.
Okay.
So you kind of de-rich the food. You actually dilute the caloric density and how rich it is, to the point where you feel comfortable about starting to increase it again by adding dietary fats. So again, the fiber, the fats should really come in with plenty of fiber too. So overall, it's not any richer than if you were to eat some meat or carbohydrates.
And the fiber is coming from the fruits and vegetables, and the dietary fats is mainly from organ meats, according to this, according to certain these recipes.
Primarily from organ meats, yes.
Okay.
Primarily from organ meats.
And then supplements would come at the end of all this.
Yeah, supplements are extras, that are added, as long as patients can tolerate them, and they have to be as well chosen as medications that you're choosing for the patient, because some of them actually do have a quite pronounced physiological effect on a patient. So And so even like herbals, herbals are, yeah, I guess herbals you can think of as plant supplements, and yeah, that stuff does something, So having said that, a lot of supplements that I see that people brought to me they seem kind of worthless, and people really see no difference after using them for many months, and you kind of get what you pay for. If it's a priority for you to get your medicine cheap, you'll get cheap medicine, and that doesn't work
That's all
very
there is to it.
well.
I have a question about the difference between omega-3s from plants and from fish. They're very different, aren't they? Or are they just the same? Does it matter?
It does matter. Remember, animals don't make omega-3s; they bioaccumulate it. So by the time it ends up in the liver of a cod, well, the cod had to eat some other fish that were
Right.
eating other fish, they're eating other fish, they're eating plankton. Well, but also other things will bioaccumulate. For example, heavy metals
Right.
or pesticide residues.
Right.
So if you bring the fat through a whole bunch of species up to the top of the food chain, it's different if you get it from a flax. You kind of get it from a source, or if you eat algae, if you eat like seaweed.
Sure.
That is omega-3s from their source, not.
So it'd be better to have the plant-based omega-3s than the fish-based. Especially today when the oceans are in such terrible shape and
Sure.
God knows these fish are eating plastic and whatever.
Well, also, you should also figure out where those plants are being grown.
Well,
And what is used to grow them, which soil is so depleted. Most of the foods are grown on depleted soils with artificial fertilizers.
boy, you just can't win.
You can't. Same with the meat.
Yeah.
Same with
That's
everything.
really very.
It is getting harder to eat clean and eat stuff that was produced humanely, sustainably, and in a way that kind of preserved nutritional value of that food. So it is getting tougher, and it's a worldwide problem. It's
Yeah.
none of us will escape the fact that the priority is to produce huge amounts of cheap food.
So depressing.
Well, but there's 6 billion people, in the world, and the number is rising. So the priority is to produce huge amounts of very cheap food.
Right. Makes me depressed, so I have to go take an antidepressant.
But you're going into the water.
And then you're out.
Yeah.
So.
It's crazy. It really is crazy.
Well, maybe the solution is to just eat lots of horrible foods and just take Valium or morphine, and then your body is horrible shape, but you don't care.
But your mind is doing just fine.
That's what somebody said. They're taking away the food stamps, but they're legalizing marijuana. So the fact that people are starving is going to be canceled out by the fact that they're not going to care.
Munchies, though. What about the munchies?
Well, they didn't.
Well, this is kind of beyond the problems of what is considered a good or bad food for a dog.
Right.
These are definitely tremendous social problems.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't
But,
mean to get it all.
Sorry,
right.
Russell's trying to answer your question.
I always enter.
Got it. Well,
Can I ask you a quick question about carbohydrates?
Yeah.
So I make homemade food, and I encourage my clients with Small Club to either make their own or to buy the food that I'm making for them. And sometimes I'm really surprised to see the amount of grain I'm using to make the food for them. And I'm wondering if it's reasonable to be sending people with food for their dogs. That basically I like to start them out with maybe equal parts of grain, meat with organ meat, and vegetables. And then I would kind of adjust that to the individual dog's metabolism and energy needs.
Like even in our own house,
Right.
we have to keep all the ingredients separate because they all have different ratios.
Sure. We have a tub of grains or other carbs, a tub of ground up vegetables, and a tub full of meat with organ meat, and then each dog actually gets a different ratio.
Yeah.
Of the three basics.
Yeah, well, and this is your problem because you want to standardize a product, to be it and not something else. And yeah, it's tough. And my solution is actually to do meat, organ meats, and veggies and calcium and supplements and all that, and leave the carbs on the side.
Yeah.
Because if you have like a tiny chihuahua that's like super scrawny, you'll do like 2 parts well cooked brown rice and 1 part of your meat and veggies stew.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a huge 12-year-old dog that just cannot have it's not gonna use those carbs. You're gonna use frozen peas as instead of the rice. You're gonna actually de-rich that meat and veggie stew that you made.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, and I actually do that a lot. I use veggies instead of the carbs.
Right.
For some dogs because they just cannot deal with even like my meat and veggie mix. So
right. Yeah, and that's actually how our 20-pound Doxy went down to 13 pounds. It's a massive amount of vegetables.
So I guess the idea would be to have a product that is carbohydrate free, but then sell carbohydrate on the side, and then and then be like, well, here's a quart of this and a quart of this, and you combine them together.
Right.
Or here's a quart of the meat and veggie, and half a quart of rice, combine them together.
Mm-hmm.
Or here's just a quart of the meat and veggie, and this is it.
Right.
So
I like that.
or if it's bland diet, it's like it's all rice and put some yogurt on it.
Right.
So yes, you can mess with it, and it is again it's not simple. It's
I know, even in our own household, it's not simple. Everyone has a completely different ratio just amongst the house.
That's good. That's helpful.
All right, and I need to wrap it up actually because I have a kid at home. But any final questions, statements, things need to be clarified? Again, this will be picked up, and I think we chew the diet, no pun intended, like over and over here. So it's not the first nor last time. We'll always have around the topic of nutrition and how it is the most user-friendly medicine.
Is marijuana bad for dogs?
That's a huge question, and it's like one of those like waves. Always like there's always like hot topic, right? So like
There's always
a few months ago, it was like can pot be used to manage pain and anxiety or like terminal things like cancer or inappetence
Do people? I mean, is it?
Oh, people use it for dogs for sure. I mean, dogs eat it because it tastes good. Also, is made into brownies, so dogs eat that, and also it's made into brownies that people eat and poop out, and dogs like that. So dogs get a hold of it a lot, and they didn't realize that it's too much, and they get really sick from it.
They get sick.
They get depressed, like from other like they would from any other sedative medication.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
sometimes they need like like support, like IV fluids and just like supportive care basically. It's really like deadly or anything.
Okay.
But yeah, no one's really done any good research, or they did maybe it's like too much of a stigma to even like put out case studies of like, hey, I used this for my cancer patients and it's working.
Yeah.
So people are kind of like trying it at home, and some people like blow it in their dog spaces, and some add it to their food, and apparently there's some it's a crapshoot, whether you're gonna get a sedation or like the opposite effect, which is like dogs fighting the sedative feeling that it's getting, because dogs don't choose to get knocked.
Right.
Dogs don't choose to
Get stoned.
to get intoxicated.
It's not like cats with catnip.
No, cats like to get stoned like that. I guess
Yeah.
Some cats will get high and get all crazy. But that is done on purpose. Versus, I don't think dogs, like even if the dog grabs a baggie from the street and eats it, I don't think it just smells and taste good. It doesn't really. They don't know they're gonna get really heavy from it in about an hour. So
Yeah, I'm sure they don't know.
and then like with most dogs, especially dogs that don't feel well, if you try to mess with their psyche, they are like fighting so hard to look good already, and you try to like, it is really pulling a carpet from underneath them if you try to overstate them, So
That's a good
so you
point.
really have to like know your dog and know that he or she likes a little puff here and there, and doesn't like upset
They have
them
to
too
tell
much,
you.
right? Or like maybe you will discover that they like if you puff into the dog's face, they don't get like all loopy, but they get really munchy, and it's really helpful for a dog that has anorexia issue. So
Just like people.
but remember, like pot has so many chemicals in it,
Yeah.
both uppity ones and downy ones, and different strains will be designed for different proportions of those
Right.
also. So you have all types of. There's a very wide pharmaceutical effect from consumption of pot, and it's different if you smoke it or if you eat it
Yeah,
or if you vaporize it.
right.
Or if you touch it. I mean, there are different effects because of like different components of it, getting into your body.
Right.
So,
Makes sense. Thank you.
but I think a couple of TV channels called me like 2 months ago, and they wanted a statement because it was written somewhere in some journal
God.
about.
From you, and they wanted you to give a statement about.
They wanted a vet saying like it's good or it's not good.
They want a quick statement. They don't
like
want
a
an
polarized
explanation.
statement of like
Right.
yes or no, and I'm like, well, it depends,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it annoys the hell of people when doctors say, well, it depends, but
Yeah.
it really depends because and it's really celebrating the fact that we are all different, which should be a good thing.
Yeah,
Oh well, yes, we're all different, but we want to be treated equally,
right.
and that is that is
We'd like a number. We'd like a number for each thing.
we want a grade. Like,
Yeah.
this is A, this is
Right.
F.
One last question. If with Shelby, if I'm concerned about her levels of electrolytes, is there any harm in giving her electrolyte enriched water or coconut water?
No, I don't think so. I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
You will not upset any electrolytes in the tissue fluid or bloodstream with isotonic
If they
fluids.
introduce coconut water and stuff that they've never had before, and their health is
I might have had one dog that was allergic to coconut oil, and that might have been just like it's a too rich of a thing. I don't know if coconut allergy is common in people. Is
Okay.
it?
I don't know.
I think that they do. I think it's really rare, but I think that they might.
Yeah, so it would be rare. Do you try it on someone that's very sick? Well, so you weigh your potential benefits versus potential risks, and I think the risks are fairly low compared to a maintenance of hydration. On someone who's probably being heavily diuresed, and is losing huge amounts of electrolytes.
So can you overhydrate a dog who has heart
Oh, sure.
problems?
Oh, yeah.
So that's what Francesca's dog is right now, and
You told me not to monitor her fluids.
Not to monitor.
Intake. They were like, she's, I have water out so that she can drink.
Well, we should monitor her hydration.
Yeah.
So if you use too much Lasix, she's gonna get dry, and that's not good for the stomach, for example.
Yeah, or the kidneys.
Or the kidneys, But if you make her like overhydrated, if you give her too much subcutaneous fluids, then you will overload the heart, and it's having a hard time pushing stuff through as it is, So yeah, but on diuretic medications, there is a high risk of dehydration. So I think maybe there was implied to like make sure she doesn't get dehydrated.
Yeah. That was the implication, but they didn't. There was a they kind of dismissed the concern that she could in any way be overloaded with fluids. Which doesn't seem.
Well, and there you went like for more Lasix shots, right? So I guess she was.
We should just
Well,
go to
but the overhydration really like has to do with with overzealous use of of IV fluids or subQ fluids. So if you're giving someone IV fluids and you don't monitor your ins and outs, you can potentially, like if you can go over what the kidneys can dump easily, then you will create a hypertensive state. There'll be like too much fluid in the system, and
while you're here, Adam, and so is Danny, how you show us how to check if they are hydrated or not. Like you tell us to check, like we always check
How
the scrub
easy is it comes
and
up?
see if this is normal.
how about up here so he's in the camera?
Hey, come here.
Like what would you
Don't
show
forget
us?
his daughter needs her dinner.
Come here. Adam will demonstrate, and he actually will show these because we give him this fluids because he does have these issues because of his kidneys.
So, kind of a cliche thing, but the moisture of the nose, like how moist or how dry the nose is, and if you have if it's a hot day, the nose will be a little bit drier. So then you kind of check, is the mouth moist or is it like really dry or tacky? Yeah, is there a good luster to the eyes? Are the eyes dull?
Rather than like wet.
Yeah. And I don't, the skin turgor is not really reliable in older dogs because the skin turgor decreases as we get older. The skin is just not as elastic. And the other thing I would do is, you can actually check the femoral pulse, and if you can find a pulse on the inside of the thigh, there's a good blood flow to the back legs.
Okay.
With dehydration, remember, the head always gets the best deal, the butt gets the worst deal. So if there's a shortage of fluid, the back legs will not get as much, and you will start losing femoral pulse, and there'll be no pulsing going down the inner thigh.
So you basically won't feel, or be really faint.
Correct. Correct. So and again, I guess the patient sicker animals tend to have very weak pulses as is. So so you're really kind of going with the mucous membranes.
I mean, the most easiest one for me was where it's obvious, is I do check his mouth because it's obvious, and his face to me, I check the skin elasticity, how fast does it go back? See, it doesn't, so he needs fluids.
Yeah.
But we do fluids every day.
Yeah, he's getting a bit sticky. He's getting
right.
It's tacky. Like the inside of his mouth is tacky.
And he loses hydration really fast because he had fluids this morning. In fact, you can still see his fluid pocket hanging from his neck. This is from fluids, but because his body is sucking up from his kidney issues.
Well, also, he there's lots of losses, so there's ins and there's outs, and today there's lots of outs because, he has to pull down his body, and it takes lots of after operation.
And then he can't just sucking up all of his nutrients, so his fur is getting rough, and fur won't grow back when he loses hair, and his feet and his face are dark. They weren't before. He's still so cute.
He's adorable.
Always.
All right, well, thank you,
Thank you
Michael
very
viewers.
much. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right,
Baby
feeding time.
Baby feeding time. Yes.
And I was all day today, so usually I would just run home and see her, but I haven't seen her since 6 in the morning. So
Oh my gosh.
There's a form to fill out. Go to the upper left-hand corner. There's for a little application.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much.
I will.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye. Yay.